We should be live. So,
Well, let me
Cool.
just check. Hey,
welcome
oh, I can
everybody
see us on Twitch.
to
That's
the
exciting.
IdioFacto live stream, the first ever IdioFacto live stream,
It's not our
Uh,
first video, but our
there's
first live.
three
the
people
first live
watching.
stream.
Could I just check? Is that just us three
I'm not
on
watching.
Twitch?
I'm not
I'm not
watching
watching.
either, so
There's four. There's five. Oh shit! There's actually people watching.
You can't say shit. Oh shit.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a really bad start.
we should start by just talking about why we've actually decided to live stream instead of doing our podcast still. So,
Yeah.
I think I'll speak for all of us when I say that the whole podcast thing, the polished nature of a podcast, kind of means that it's kind of hard to find time with our busy lives to research and then actually record the podcast and then edit it. It like the whole process takes about, I don't know, 10 to 15 hours, I guess, a week, which is just too big a commitment really for people who have full-time jobs and real careers and stuff like that. So this is kind of the direction that we've been heading in anyway, just organically with the podcast. And yeah, I think this is a good way of being able to continue the skeptical podcast without having to invest as much time and effort. And I think that I guess the idea is that we will just casually talk about some skeptical issues and news in science and stuff like that, the same way we would on the podcast, but basically do our research live, so you can get an insight into the skeptical thinking that goes behind the recording of the podcast. Is that
right.
pretty good summary of what we're doing?
That's a good summary. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
even if you don't need to be doing the editing, the research alone for anyone whose topic it was as you said, a massive workload. And if you chose a really complicated topic, then it just got more and more drawn out. And so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if you're anything like me, you will leave your research until Sunday, several hours before the podcast.
And then hopefully you already know a little bit about the topic that you're going to do. Otherwise, it's impossible to get your head around it.
Often though, knowing nothing about the topic,
Yeah.
so having to do all of the research, and so yeah, massive. And then of course
Mm.
Matt having to do the editing on top of that, and I've had to edit a few episodes, and it drag. There's no quick way for us to do it.
No.
It's a massive process. So this, yeah, was quite organic. We've done a couple of videos here and there, and a couple of live streams, but this just seems like it'll be much more. I guess the direction of the podcast for a long time has been going sort of less structured, more conversational, and this is how much more conversational can you get than live. There's
Yeah.
zero editing, and we've always joked about having the unedited podcast available.
And now
to
you
our,
get to actually experience it, which
to on
for
our
better or
Patreon.
worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I
Who
think
knows?
for me, one of the best parts was when I was doing research, especially for like pseudoscience or kind of those pseudo medical kind of topics. I really found that a lot of the issue was around knowing what to look at and what not to look at, red flags to look out for. And I think they're things we're going to be able to point out way better in a live format. Um, Obviously, not for those watching the stream, that'd be perfect because we can screen share and everything. But for those listening later, we'll still be able to pick up those things as we go through.
Yeah.
Because I did try to make note of them when I was doing the research, but yeah, I forget to do that all the time.
Yeah.
But I think that was the more important part was figuring out how to research, not so much what the answer is. Obviously,
Yeah.
the answer matters, but
Mm.
as an underlying skeptical kind of process, it's really figuring out how to do that.
For
A
sure.
big thing for me, and I mean, I learnt this at school and uni, is you always, this is a bad habit by the way, is that you always stop once you find what you think the answer is. And so
Mm.
if you're looking for information, you're, and I'm sure there's a name for it, but you'll always, it's a bit of a cognitive bias, I suppose, you'll always choose the sources and the information and the articles and whatever it is that supports the answer that you want it to be.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's really, really important to
Confirmation
actually
bias.
not just stop at that, is to um to look at the source and say, okay, how credible actually is this source? Do I just like this particular source because it supports my opinion, or is it a legitimate source that's trusted and respected? So so I agree. I think that'll be a good that'll be a good part of the live, is that you can see what our process has been, and then there's been times in the podcast where we've done research, and then during the show, one of us has said, actually, I'm not quite sure if that's quite right. Usually it's Matt saying it to me. And I'll go, oh, okay, I must have misunderstood that. Whereas we can do that here live, and so there'll be no opportunity for us to kind of...
We can't sugarcoat
to
our...
get it wrong, but yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
speaking
right.
of the live format, the other advantage is that it gives us some live interaction, and thanks Draconis for being the first follower that is non Matt, Levi, or Sam, basically.
Thank you, Draconis.
Thank you.
Wherever you are, where are you in the world?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've
I'll
got
not tell you that,
so looking at the stats for
Speaking
the
of,
actual
we've also got our
podcast-
first comment, guys.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you know this person, Sharon Bateman.
Ah, interesting.
Hi, Sharon.
I
Thanks
have
for
no
watching.
idea. Mama Shaz. Oh, we've got a fan, but
Yeah.
she had to be a
Nice.
fan. She had no choice.
That's right.
Obligated fan.
Yeah, no,
So
interesting to say that, like, speaking of Draconis, wherever you are in the world, from the UK, there you go. So that's actually, that's pretty interesting, because if you look at the spread of where our podcast listeners come from, it's pretty diverse. There's a bunch of listeners in the UK, a bunch of listeners in the US, which, sorry about the time difference here. It's not going to be very easy for someone from the US to listen to us live, but UK is not bad. I think it's 9 a.m. Or 10 a.m. for the UK at the moment. Maybe Draconis can help us there. But yeah, but we have listeners from all over the world, which is kind of bonkers, really. We're just like 3 guys from different parts of Australia, and we've
Yeah.
got
I couldn't
listeners
believe
from
it
all over the world.
when we collected, because our usual our host for the podcast is Podbean, and Podbean actually gives you statistics on where your listeners come from, and you're able to really drill down into each part of the world, each continent, and work out how many listens from each country, and how many listens per episode from each country. You can get really, really specific, but we had listeners from literally all over the world. Obviously, a lot of listeners in Australia and America. A lot of the, I guess, people that used to work with Matt and that
Yeah.
you met in your travels
Yep.
from the US. So, but then a heap of European listeners, and we've got listeners in New Zealand, listeners through Africa, the Middle East, parts of Asia, Vietnam, a couple of countries that I've never heard of before. So it was, really awesome. I'm not quite sure how. I guess that kind of information is collected through IPs.
I would
addresses
imagine
in the
so.
stream?
Friend of the show, Michael McKay, will be able to tell us something about that, but I guess it's through IP addresses. So if you're running a VPN, then probably
yeah.
not going to work for you. But yeah, it's 10:24 a.m. in British standard British summertime. I think that BST is 10:24 BST until the end of the month. So
I'm interested, Draconis, what brought you to the stream, because I guess we don't know you personally. I'm interested in how this popped up as a notification, or did you need to search for a talk only Twitch, or I am interested.
anyway, on that note, let's get into it. Levi, you posted just before we came on. You posted a question to Sam in our chat, asking some questions about statistics. So
Yep.
Yeah, so
And,
this is the graph that Lev sent into the group just before. Yeah, I'm always organised. So it's Where did you get it from first, Lev?
Uh, a person who I'm friends with on Facebook shared it.
Okay. So the fact that it's got a little at handle down the bottom is always a bit of a concern. But anyway, uh, just means it's been shared 50 times and probably taken out of context. So interesting looking graph. And I guess, Lev, your question was mainly like, is this accurate or what am I missing kind of thing?
Yeah.
Well, sorry for the streamception there. Um, so basically, what this graph is indicating is that in in fully vaccinated people over the age of 30, that their rates of infection are higher than the non-vaccinated population.
So there's all different tones of blues and oranges, but essentially, and there's a good little breakdown on the left-hand side of that graph where it says anything that's roughly blue means vaccinated, anything that's vaguely orange is non-vaccinated,
Mm.
and then they're just different age groups. And then the axis on is it per infections per 100,000?
Per 100,000. Yep.
Yeah. So what that shows is that in almost every age group, um, that the infection rate is higher per 100,000 members of the population, I suppose, in those that are vaccinated versus those that are not. So my question
Mm.
was, is this true? And if so, why?
Mm.
And are there any statistical manipulations going on to
Yeah.
make it appear so?
So there is actually a quite a simple answer for this, as to why this graph is, or showing the data that it is, or even just why the numbers are what they are. Because strictly speaking, it's not incorrect data. Um, it's accurate numbers. First thing I always look at is what's the source. So PHE is Public Health England, I think. PHE, yeah, Public Health England. So they're keeping track of all the stats of COVID infections. And at first look, obviously, it looks like there's higher infection rates in the fully vaccinated versus unvaccinated. The Where this has been manipulated is the word rates. So this graph is not showing per 100,000 vaccinated people versus per 100,000 unvaccinated people. It's showing per 100,000 of the whole population.
Yep.
So it's actually not rates; it's just raw numbers of infection. And what does the under 18 population have different to the? Because you can see, obviously, the under 18 population has the biggest difference there, and
Yeah.
the biggest difference in the under 18 population is that they have not had the chance to be vaccinated yet.
Hmm.
So, well, they're starting to be vaccinated, I should say, and there have always been exceptions for health conditions, etc. So, what this graph is showing is that there's similar numbers of people being infected in the vaccinated versus unvaccinated populations. That's true, but we need to know the number of those populations. So, at the
Yeah.
moment,
While you do that, so I guess the thing is that if you meet somebody in the UK at the moment,
mm,
there's a what is there a 90% chance that they are vaccinated? So the chances of meeting a vaccinated person are much higher than meeting an unvaccinated person. So the way that these numbers are set up in this graph is that, of course, the chances of an infection is going to be higher as well
mm,
if you're just comparing the entire population. Whereas we need to be, for it to be accurate, if you're comparing apples with apples, so to speak, you need to split that out. So
yeah,
infection rates per 100,000 vaccinated, and then infection rates in non-vaccinated per 100,000 non-vaccinated.
yeah. So currently in the UK, 73.5% of the population have had at least one dose. 66% are fully vaccinated. So this this graph, where is it, is actually comparing 66. Well, this is across different age groups as well. I assume that the older age groups had the opportunity to get vaccinated first. So down this end of the graph, that's the highest percentage of vaccinated people, and down this end of the graph is the lowest.
Mhm.
So what you're looking at is raw numbers wise, 90% of the population is actually in this cohort here. And then this might be 10% of the population. I don't know those actual numbers, but majority are vaccinated. So looking at raw numbers, the actual rate of infection or the chance of being infected is actually much lower per person or per capita in the vaccinated population versus the unvaccinated.
Yeah, that
The
makes
real,
sense because that's the whole
yeah,
point of the vaccination.
yeah, and the real question, I think, so that's the main manipulation that's going on in this graph is that it's just showing raw numbers. It's not showing 100,000 vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So it's not showing a control and a treatment group. It's just grouping it all in together and looking at numbers. And um, I think the more relevant number anyway is the number of, well, when I say number, the rate of severe infection, the rate of hospitalization, the rate of death,
Mm.
because that's the real thing that we're looking at preventing with a vaccination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The number of people infected is not really the concern. If it was just a mild illness in everyone, then we wouldn't really be that concerned. But it's the severe infection, the death, ICU, that's what we're concerned about. So despite what this graph shows and is misleading you to believe, your risk of being infected is actually still far lower with vaccination. And that's not even including the risk of death, the risk of severe infection, the risk of complications being much, much, much lower with a vaccination. So these are just a really good example of
Data
manipulation
manipulation?
of
Yeah,
statistics. Yeah,
definitely.
because it's not wrong. It's just intentionally misleading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just goes against all the. I guess that's why they're trying to mislead, is because it goes against all the. Well, it goes against the whole point of the vaccination. Really, it's like it's
Yeah,
that you're trying to make people think that the the media spin that older people are more susceptible to COVID is, but that's not really what that graph shows at all.
no,
No.
no. So that was very interesting.
Mm. Yes, well, that is
Um,
that's my bugbear is data manipulation.
mm.
So
The thing is, people are getting quite good at it.
yeah, well, that's the other thing is if you just take that at face value, then that's dangerous, really. And
Yeah,
I guess that's everyone, all the COVID skeptics have been doing is just manipulating data and
yeah. I think the other trouble, and this was mentioned on the Skeptics Guide's live stream yesterday. They were talking about Joe Rogan yet again, and Sanjay Gupta, who
and
is
and how
a
skeptical and amazing Joe Rogan is, and
no, they're talking about
interesting.
how Sanjay Gupta was on Joe Rogan recently, and Sanjay Gupta is a well-known neurologist in the US. He's been quite prominent in public health education and that sort of thing. Um, he's not really a trained media personality. He is
Right?
on a lot of news and a lot of media
Why?
um,
If you
because he's very well respected and high up in his field, but
okay,
he's not a trained skeptical thinker. He is a very good neurologist, but what they showed a few clips of it, and what really happened was Joe Rogan just talked rings around him, and Sanjay couldn't identify what kind of strategies and tactics were being used against him in that conversation, and also couldn't really stop Joe talking and then
Yeah.
actually get some points in because that's the other thing that Joe Rogan does really well is he
just
just
talks.
talks and talks and talks and
Yeah,
talks
yeah,
and
yeah,
talks
yeah.
and he just completely runs over who he's
I
talking to.
understand that it's his podcast, but also
Mm.
he has guests on for a reason, right? Like, I think
Mm.
in the episode of IdioFacto where we interviewed, well, actually, even the ones where we interview you, Sam, before you joined the podcast, You basically did all the talking, right? Because the reason we have you on
That's the
is
point
for
of
your
having a guest.
expertise. Yeah. If you're
Yeah.
going to bring a guest on and then talk for most of the time, what is the point of
Mm.
having the guest in the first place? Especially if you
Yeah.
talk them around in circles and make them say what you want them to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen other videos talking about Joe Rogan and how he's this fantastic conversationalist and how you can use his tactics and strategies to have a really good conversation with somebody. Which, if you listen to his podcast, he does. There's never a break in conversation because
Yeah. And
he
they're
just
3-hour episodes. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
and he does just keep it going. He's quite the personality. But unfortunately, just because of his status, people hold what he says to be true. And is the Joe Rogan podcast still the
The
I
most.
think it's still the biggest
in the world?
podcast.
It
Yeah,
is.
he's
It's
still
the
the
most
most highly
downloaded.
paid
Yeah.
podcaster. Yeah.
Which is dangerous, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I just don't understand. Well, I guess I do. I just really strongly disagree with people get their information from the wrong sources. Like, why would...
I think, Joe Rogan's a weird
Rogan-
one because he also has, he has legitimate scientists on. Like, he's had Neil deGrasse Tyson on. He has, actual scientists telling actual science things. But then he mixes it with pseudoscientists or other people who
Absolute
aren't
crank.
necessarily
Yeah.
skeptical thinkers, and then blasts them with things that need to be gone over with a skeptical eye. And obviously,
He
in
also
this
goes
case-
on these really tangential, just off the cuff rants, and without any sort of backing. And he says things that are just totally off the cuff, and then and he goes, anyway, I digress. And then he gets back to but what he's brought up in his little tangent is wrong and often irrelevant, and he just wants to say something.
Just wants to say it and then doesn't give the other person a chance to talk about it if they want to.
Yeah, that's right. It's frustrating. I mean, he's great to listen to talk to people because he gets information out of people. Because I guess he asks the right questions, but
I just really hate
doesn't have the
that
right answers.
not just him, but he is the archetype of it, but just hiding behind it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I just hate that.
Yeah, or the people say, or things like that.
Yeah.
People say that this, and people say that
It's so
COVID
weak.
kills you, but or people say the vaccine's bad for you. I don't believe that myself, but people have been saying that.
Yeah. It's just weak.
It gives
I really
a
don't like
platform
it.
to things that shouldn't have a platform.
And look, I know it's all done in the name of entertainment, and really, in his case, money. He's doing it because he's getting more listeners, getting more viewers. But at what point does he actually have to be held accountable for the damage he's doing? Because he has literally caused the deaths of many people during this pandemic.
But
And
because you can't draw a straight line from Joe Rogan to death of a person, what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
I've been listening and reading interchangeably it's a Carl Sagan book. I forget what it's called now. Demon Haunted World. There's a recommendation for anyone who wants a really good skeptical book to read. But basically, he talks about the damage that non-skeptical thinkers can do in society, and is there a way that we can hold people accountable for the deaths that they cause and the heartache that they cause? And he's mainly talking about ghosts and mediums that talk to dead people and things like that, and how it can be quite traumatizing, especially for a child, to have a medium get them in touch with their dead parent, for example, and then feel like they're legitimately interacting with a parent when the medium is just cold reading most of what's going on, or in that case, hot reading, if they know a lot about the kid, and then is that kid going to get addicted to seeing the medium because they think that that's an interaction with their parent? Like that, it's a really grey sort of it's a grey area as far as legality goes, but it really shouldn't be. That should be illegal.
Yeah.
That is a form of child abuse, in my opinion. That should be illegal.
Yeah, I think something that I've said many times on the podcast is I'm more about like risk versus benefit. Where's the harm? That sort of thing. I think in that case, it's pretty easy to see the harm, and I
Yeah,
think that's where
definitely.
the line can be drawn.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all for people having their their beliefs, their opinions, that sort of thing, as long as they're not insane. But the only time that I'll advise against something is if it's potentially harmful. Otherwise, I'll happily provide evidence or have a conversation about whatever, but I'll actively advise against things if they're going to be harmful, because I think that's like a really important line to be made, and I think that is not really followed enough in a lot of pseudosciences and the pseudo practices, really.
That's it. Yeah. So we've spoken about this a few times, and it's really hard for us to get our heads around what our role as skeptics is when it comes to pulling people up on anti-scientific beliefs. And I seesaw back and forward. Sometimes I'm much more of your opinion, Sam, where I think, no, there's no harm here. Like I don't want to ruin chiropractic for people if it, if they think it's going to help them, that's fine. They can go to a chiropractor. What harm is it doing me, or what harm is it doing them? Really?
Potential injury,
Well, apart from the potential injury,
financial
but
loss.
yeah, okay, but like that, there are things. Okay, that's probably a bad example. Chiropractic is probably a bad example, but there are examples. Astrology, for example. Like, what is the harm in me letting someone just believe that astrology is a thing?
I guess for me, it's just about the injustice of people that have done real science,
Mm,
and then people that haven't
mm,
and believe in astrology, and we'll speak about it as though it's real, not like, oh, there's this thing that makes me feel good. It's called astrology. I know I don't really know if it's real or not, but but people bring it up as though it's real, and for me, it's like,
yeah,
hang on, are we all just going to sit here and pretend that this is
and they
like,
live and die by it. Like it's
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. It's just
But
like
oh yeah,
another one that really gets me is ghosts. People,
Mm,
yeah.
and you mentioned that's what reminded me of it, Matt, when you said ghosts and mediums.
Mm.
mm.
Um, I was somewhere the other day and someone happened to mention a ghost. They said, "Oh, my office is haunted" or something like that, and everyone went, "Oh, yeah, no."
Yeah. No, I know what that's like. Yeah.
I know. I kind of, and that's the same thing. I'm like, hang on, are we all gonna actually just sit here and pretend that ghosts are real?
Yeah,
You know,
out of politeness, or
yeah. Are we being polite, or like
Mm.
all know that they don't exist, but maybe we're just pretending a bit, like, I'm not sure. Anyway, that one always gets me.
I understand. See, in that situation, I think the introvert in me, the socially awkward introvert in me, would sort of just be like, oh, I'll just leave it alone because it's not like I want to save myself the awkwardness of having to have that conversation. But like I said,
counterpoint though, Levi, you do enjoy playing Phasmophobia.
I sure do. Yeah, that's right. Because
it's fictional.
yeah, it's a game.
See, I know it's fictional as well, but it still scares the absolute bejesus out of me. So I don't know. Yeah.
We jump over to, actually, firstly, I'd just like to interrupt there. I don't know if anyone picked it up. Probably, my wife Christy walked into the room and
Yeah, I thought we were
delivered
about to have
my-
our first guest.
Well, yeah, she came in to deliver my dinner,
Oh,
which looked delicious. Bean enchiladas. It's probably not the best food to eat live on air, because I think they're going to be messy and noisy. But
can you give us a
I'll see
live review though?
I'll see if I can. Yeah, sure. I'll have a mouthful in a moment
Okay.
Nice.
and let you know what.
Maybe
they're like.
mute your microphone before you do
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah, they're part of we're on an 8-week challenge at the gym that we go to,
Uh-huh.
and so there's a meal plan, and you got to go to the gym certain amount of times per week, and
What
those
is
kind
the
of things.
certain amount of times per week?
It's not necessarily the amount of times. It's more the to be eligible to win the challenge, you've got to.
Oh, so it's a
burn-
competition.
It's a competition. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, most people just do it so that they can, get themselves a little bit healthier.
Jacked.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be getting jacked, but hopefully lose between 8 and 12 kilos would be
Oh
awesome.
wow. Okay.
Well,
That's
it's been going for 2 weeks and I've already lost a bit over 3 kilos.
wow.
So
Nice.
yeah, chance, and I need to lose it, but yeah, I think if I keep it up, there's no reason why I wouldn't. Like I'm probably in a per week, I'm in about a 7 to 10,000 calorie deficit, I suppose, per week.
Wow, that's a lot.
Per week, yeah. But I mean, so my resting
Is
metabolic
that a
rate
lot
is
for
about
like
That's heaps.
for a
Yeah.
week though? For a
yeah,
whole
but
week?
you need to be in roughly in
1,000 a day.
7,000. Yeah.
That's a 30% deficit a day.
Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah. To lose it roughly the rough numbers, I heard somewhere. I don't know. I don't have the source.
Oh
I heard
no.
somewhere that roughly, you need to be in about a 7,000 calorie deficit to lose 1 kilogram of body weight.
Well, it would really depend on your body size and and composition,
Yeah. Hence roughly.
Mm.
As
as well as
yeah.
basal metabolic rate, all that kind of stuff.
So you get a scan done, and again these are all just approximations, but those scans are pretty. I'd like to do.
When you say
some-
scan,
Yeah, so I'll explain it. So there's this machine, and you go in and you stand on it, and it's a scale, so it tells you how much you weigh. But then there are on
I've
the
had those
feet
scans.
pads. There's electrodes. There's also handles that you hold in your hand that have electrodes on them, and you got to stand there for about 10-15 seconds just with your arms out by your sides, and at the end of it, it will tell you the percentage of your body that is made of fat, the percentage of lean muscle. It will tell you the dimensions of each of your limbs. It will tell you your what's the two different types? Visceral fat versus body fat. Essentially, the fat on your tummy versus the fat around your heart. It can tell you the percentage of the fat that is made up by each of those. It tells you all of these things.
how?
And then it can also, I don't know. I'm
Okay.
guessing it passes some kind of electricity, and each different type of tissue has a different level of resistance to different frequency of electricity. But it's clearly not making it up, because my body fat percentage came back as way higher than our trainer's body fat percentage, and he's ripped, and I'm not. And so, I'm not sure if it's exact, but it must be pretty close.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know how that actually. Do you say you've had one of those scans, Sam?
No.
Oh.
When he said he weighed himself, I said I did. I've had those. Yeah, I'm actually gonna just quickly look up how they actually work.
Yeah, I'd be
Oh,
interested to
no.
know.
But they must. Well, I'm not saying they're as accurate as methods that you would use in a professional facility, but
I'm just kind
they
of
must be
amazed that we can do it at
relatively
all. To be honest,
accurate.
like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. So this particular machine is called an E-Volt,
Okay.
but this would be similar. The technology is probably the same in all of them.
we'll have to do something about this. The quality of your screen
Here we
share
go.
is not great though. So
Is
we'll
this
have to
the
do
thing?
something about that.
That's it, Sam. Yeah.
Should I chat with support? Hey, how do you work?
How does it work?
Anyway,
Yeah,
that's what
I've
it
always
is.
What the research
always
says.
wondered
Here we
about
go.
'em.
This is interesting. That one says what the research says. That guy is jacked.
He is
Oh
jacked,
my
yeah.
god! Look at
That
the
looks
size
fake.
of him. Yeah, he looks fake. Is he wearing like one of those Superman
It
suits?
looks.
You know
It
how
looks like a suit.
Yeah.
It really does.
What's his name? I'm gonna look him up.
I don't know.
Does it say
Jake
his name?
Campus. Jake Campus. That can't be his name. It is. Jake Campus. That's a fake name.
Yeah.
Surely. Anyway.
Jake Campus.
Uh,
He looks particularly big in that photo, but he is a big dude.
they're talking about the research of how they work to keep people in gyms.
Are you sure that's his name, or is that the university that you went to?
No, it just said,
Jake.
hi, I'm Jake Campus.
Jake Campus Nutrition.
Jake
He's a
Campus,
Kiwi.
the Jake Campus of Auckland University, or
Yes.
Yeah.
I really hope that he gets a campus named after him called the Jake Campus Campus.
We'll take the first bite of bone.
Here we go. Draconis has got an answer for us potentially.
Here
Capacitive
we
and
go.
resistive measurements. Different frequencies of electrical pulse determine the measurements. So
Yeah.
that is what
So
you said, Lev. Oh,
yeah.
what we've got Inception going on here. You've got a Twitch stream
Sorry.
inside a Twitch stream.
Um, I understand that part. What I don't understand is how it gives you the measurements of your limbs and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's very quite specific. Can you zoom in on that for us?
Like, I guess
I don't know how it
how
does
it
it either,
can.
but it's
Oh,
accurate.
let's not look at that one because that's not. Uh, hmm. Okay.
Bioimpedance.
Can you read that or not really?
So apparently you can. So Draconis says you combine what he said before, what they said before, the different frequencies of electrical pulse. You combine it with BMI measurements and height and weight, etc. And what do you mean by nerve conduction, Draconis? I don't. How does it? How does a machine do that? Is it?
It,
How
it
can it?
can. It can. Well,
Literal conduction, I guess.
very
Electricity.
very grossly it can because um, but it will more depend on amplitude rather than conduction speed because amplitude will tell you the mass of muscle. The higher the mass of muscle, the more amplitude you'll get. But
Right.
but I wouldn't have thought that it would be that accurate when the only electrodes you've got are in your hands and on your feet. Interesting.
It must be accurate enough.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess anything is better than nothing. Like if you're talking about that, but then
Okay.
at some stage, I guess it becomes diminishing returns, and you can only you hit a certain threshold and it becomes meaningless.
Yeah. But like I've had several of these types of scans over my life, just at different gyms and things, and they always follow the trend of at a stage of my life when I was quite fat, my my fat percentage, my body fat percentage was higher, and then after 12 weeks of good nutrition and exercise, my body fat percentage was much lower, and it can tell you the dimension. I don't know how it does it again. It can tell you the dimensions of your different parts of your body. So
I mean, it could be a combination of technologies as well. Like that, you could do that with laser. The dimensions you could do with a laser.
definitely not using laser though.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Draconis says they're not accurate, but it's a good approximation. So,
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Just having a quick look through this.
which is all you need
Basically,
for a 9 week challenge or whatever at a
Oh, of
gym.
course.
That's more than
Yeah.
enough.
exactly. I think this is probably the key, just out of this bit I've read so far. So it measures resistance reactance. The former, so resistance is influenced by intra and extracellular fluid properties to counteract the passage of electric current. So its value is inversely related to tissue hydration and consequently the amount of lean body mass. So they would know the different hydrations of fat tissue versus muscle tissue, and then knowing that you could determine how much muscle as a percentage.
Gotcha.
What I wonder, what I don't know, and I can't work out, is how it determines the difference between visceral fat and is it subcutaneous fat? Is the other type like just the body fat?
Yeah, so, adipose tissue. So they are actually quite different in their composition. I would assume, reading into that a bit further, that there'd be a way to tell that as well. Although, yeah, I can't imagine. I think it would give a good approximation. I can't imagine how accurate it would really be, though. I think in combination with like actual measurements of waist circumference, hip circumference, chest circumference, all that kind of stuff, then I imagine it would be pretty accurate after that.
So this is interesting. Draconis says if I did one, it would say one of my arms is shorter because I've got nerve damage. So does that mean, Draconis, that your arm is not actually shorter, but the nerve damage would make it seem shorter based on the scan?
I
That
think it
would
would be
interesting.
the muscle atrophy in the
Yeah.
arm would definitely cause a different amplitude and conduction speed.
Yeah. Okay. That's super interesting.
It is very interesting. I've always, every time I've had one, I've always been so interested to think, how does
I
this
didn't
actually
even know
work?
that was a thing. I'm kind of
That
mind blown
the
that
machines have
it's such
gotten
a thing.
a lot better. So like when I first had it, and this would have been for I want to say 10 years ago, I was when I had my first ever body composition scan. It was electrodes that you put all up you put two on your legs, on each leg, a couple on your chest and abdomen, some on your arms. Oh yeah, you were right. Yep, Draconis says.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you would have to run through a separate machine, and then
Hmm.
you would have to input your height and weight separately. Whereas some of the machines that I've been on, you don't even need to input your height. You stand there, and there's a um, little bar that comes down. It falls down, it boops you on the head, and it works out your height.
How
And
cute.
yeah, it's great. So yeah. Anyway, but
Hmm.
that
So when
was
they talk to you about diet, this has been my. I've actually really been interested in nutrition and diet over the last few months. More just the pseudosciencey kind of stuff. And I've just this week just started counting macros.
Oh yeah.
mm,
Um, and I did a little bit of research into it last weekend, but I actually want to do a little bit more. Did they talk to you much about watching macros? Well, I guess they're giving you a diet plan, aren't they? But did they give you
mm.
any education or anything around macros and protein to have?
I know quite a bit about sort of that stuff anyway, just
Mm.
from just years of being interested in
Yeah.
gym and fitness and powerlifting. It was very important.
I
Um,
don't know anything about anything. So if you would
right.
like to,
Well, this particular challenge, they don't actually teach you anything. They just give you a meal plan that has balanced macros. But one thing that they do say is, say for example, you can't eat. You don't like me. I don't love smoked salmon, and one of the meals is smoked salmon. Start again. Smoked
smash,
salmon
smash, say. Yeah, I like some smash,
cheese
say. So it's good.
on rice crackers. And so
Oh, that's
if they say,
delicious.
if you
Come
don't
on.
like anything, then swap out swap it out for something of similar calories and similar macros. So for me, that would be, rather than smoked salmon, I'd swap it out for tuna or something similar.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, what did you learn, Sam?
Basically, my goals at the moment, so I'm a sprinter. I had a long off season where I had exams and didn't do any training. So I got unfit, really. I've got,
How long does it take you to get unfit? Just
a couple of weeks after
oh
training
really?
for months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You lose it super quick.
Is that lose it
Um,
back to like square one, or you lose it back to
Well,
like you lose a couple of weeks of progress and you?
no, you're back to square one.
Oh
Like
my god,
after,
that's so much pressure.
so I had basically a month. So our season normally is about 8 months long, or yeah, 6 months, 6 months season, and then we have like 2 months pre-season. Um, Last year, because of COVID cancelling things early, the season got cut off. So we basically started our pre-season when it would normally finish. So we basically had a 12-month season. So I went, right, I'm having a proper break. I took a month off where I did nothing, and then I started doing a bit of training, not much though.
That was
Mostly
around the
just
wedding
gym work.
time, wasn't it? Because I remember you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember you not
That
doing
wedding
just
was
getting
about
stuck back into it when
yeah.
Levi's wedding was on.
Wedding was about 3 weeks after the season finished, and like I had injuries at the end of the season, so I was like, I'm just going to take a proper break off. But then I had exams the month after the wedding, and then I had a week off after that, so basically, I've got a few kilos I need to lose, but I also need to build lean muscle for obviously for strength for sprinting. So what I was trying to look at is how to lose a little bit of weight, or a little bit of fat, I should say, whilst also gaining lean muscle. And the like 10 or so sources I looked at had wildly different recommendations.
Yeah.
The one I saw, I think it's with the keto trend. A lot of places I saw said 30% protein, 40% fat, 30% carbs. It seems like a lot of fat. But with the keto trend, everything's like at the moment is pushed more towards lower carbs.
But isn't the whole point of keto is that you pretty much have just fats? So like to only have
It's
a high
more
fat.
that you have No, it's that you have as lower carbs as possible. So it puts you into ketoacidosis, a
Right.
ketogenic state.
Yeah. I should probably
Yeah.
re-listen to the podcast that we did on
Yeah.
keto diets, but um,
Yeah. But then other places I read, they were 40 protein, 30 fat, 30 carbs. One of them said, and then I read a couple which seemed like probably more scientifically backed, and they said basically you figure out how much protein you need, which again varied widely, but was roughly between 1.5 to 2.5 grams per kilo
Yeah.
of body composition. So for me, I'm about 90 kilos at the moment, so I need 180 grams of protein.
Yeah.
And then they both said split the rest however you see fit, like split the carbs and fat however you see fit. But then I
Oh,
also read
really?
somewhere else that if you're trying to lose fat, then you need to have a lower fat composition in the macros. So the split I've ended up aiming for is 40% protein because that worked out to be roughly 180 grams of protein a day, and then 40% carbs because, and 20% fat. And that's because 4 days a week I do pretty high volume training where I'm burning like usually between 5 to 800 calories.
wow.
And then other days I'm doing lifting. So, and actually most days I'm doing running. I'm also doing like lighter lifting sessions in the morning. So I actually have a pretty high, and my basal metabolic rate is about 2,200 calories. So
Really?
yeah, yeah. So I actually
Wow.
need
Is that
quite
high?
a bit of
I have
intake.
no idea what mine would be. So
So I'm gonna tell you the results of my scan
can I just
because my basal.
before you do that, can I ask Sam, when you said you saw some diets that were, you seemed to think they were more scientifically backed. What made you think that?
It was mostly just the websites they were on and the language that they used. I have to find some examples. Maybe we can talk about it more next week.
Yeah,
But
no worries.
yeah, it just seemed, yeah, it really seemed to, you could just tell which ones
Yeah, but
were.
that's also like specificity
Mm,
does not necessarily mean it's scientifically backed. You
no.
know what I mean? Like I've fallen into that trap before as well, and thought, yeah, that seems scientific because
Mm.
it's there's a lot of numbers and it looks like they've done some maths, but that
Oh,
doesn't
it wasn't even
necessarily mean
that. It
it's
was just like more and less scientific language used, which again, sometimes that is a trick for pseudoscience is to use scientific official sounding language.
yeah.
It made more sense, I think, and yeah, I have to have some examples up to be
I
able
guess
to give more
you
specifics.
probably have more of a base knowledge than most coming like if I was to do it, for example, you'd get me with jargon and I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't know, it seems right, but I realistically don't know what I'm talking about. So
So
anyway,
my
Lev, what were
scan.
your scans?
So my scan. I'm I'm quite a bit heavier than you, Sam. I've probably got about 10 kilos on you.
Mhm.
Um, but my basal metabolic rate is lower, so it's 1950.
Mhm.
My
What was
lean body.
yours, Sam?
About 22, 2150, 2200.
Okay.
So what is it that drives that up? Because I'd like to check that number.
It's so it's muscle composition, and it's also just genetics.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
Though there's a lot of factors, but
And
they're
a,
two of
and a
them
follow
kind
up
of main
question
ones.
for that one is, how do you know what your basal metabolic rate is?
So
hmm.
I did one of those online thingies, but also my Whoop strap.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
that's cool.
yeah.
So you've got a portable arm worn version of what Levi's talking about, basically.
Kind of, kind of.
Yeah, I remember
It
you telling us about this when you were first getting it, and you were very excited by the different metrics that it gave you.
I don't think it'd be able to
you know
tell
what?
you body composition though. That
No,
strap could.
no, it
No,
doesn't.
that
But
would
it
be amazing. Frankly, I
yeah,
I'm
Hmm.
would be even more amazed than the bioimpedance. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I've just looked at my my calories burned on my low act or no activity days, and just kept an eye on that. So that gives me a fair idea. Um,
and how does your watch tell you that, or your fitness tracker tell you that?
so I put in BMI to start off with, and then it measures my heart rate throughout the day, measures my rest rate, while I'm sleeping, while I'm exercising,
Yeah.
and that can give you, as well as all the regular kind of motion tracking things that the fitness trackers have in them,
Yeah.
and that can give you a pretty accurate representation.
Yeah. Okay.
So my understanding of basal metabolic rate is it's
Mm.
the amount of calories that you burn just
Yeah,
laying
if you
in
were
bed
lying
with
there
your
doing
eyes
nothing.
closed, doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
So the way that I'm able to get into such a deficit with this meal plan is that my basal metabolic rate is 1950. So I need to eat 1950 calories just to, if I'm laying in bed, just to maintain my current weight. My body
yeah,
composition would change. I would
yeah, yeah.
atrophy. My muscles would atrophy, but uh, I guess my body mass would stay the same.
Mhm.
The meal plan that I'm on gives me anywhere between 2,200 and 2,400 calories a day. The minute that you stand up out of bed and get dressed and walk to your car and drive to work and sit at a desk and walk out in the forest like I do, you're immediately
Walk into
burning
caves,
far
crawl
more.
into caves.
Go into a few caves, yeah. You're immediately going to burn far more calories than you would if you were just laying in bed, obviously. So already, just even if I didn't go to the gym, I'm probably have enough calories that I'm burning to, I guess, still be in a deficit. And then 5 times a week, I'll go to the gym and do a class that burns anywhere between 800 and 1,000 calories, according to the heart rate monitor that I wear. And the amount of calories that you burn hugely depends on the inputs that you put into that into the app that sets up your band. So I didn't know this. So the first few times that I went to the gym, I wore Christie's heart rate monitor strap, and it's the electrode type. It's not an optical one. It's a electrode you wear it around your chest.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Probably similar to the functionality of your Whoop.
Yeah,
Is
probably.
that, or is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Do you have a chest strap for that as well, or is it just all wrist based?
Wrist. You can also. I have it
arm,
up on
maybe.
my forearm when I'm running because I
Yeah.
can't have it on my wrist.
Uh-huh.
And then it's got like this other sleeve thing you put on your shoulder. But the new one, this is not. I really wish this was paid for by Whoop, but it's not. The new one they're
Whoop,
coming
if
out
you're
with.
listening, we are
Please.
open to sponsorships.
Please sponsor us. The new one, you can wear it basically anywhere. So they bring out clothing with it as well, where you can just put it like in the waistband of your short. Like you have to have their shorts to put it in the right spot. But waistband of your shorts, or I think in leggings or in tops, like in compression tops and stuff. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Oh, I'd be
And it's
really
also
interested to try that out, Whoop.
yeah, it's also going to measure blood oxygenation levels and
How?
skin temperature. Well, blood oxygenation, we basically do, a pulse oximeter that you put on
Yeah.
like paramedics or whatever. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a
But yeah.
infrared light.
Yeah,
So.
through your finger, I get. But
Mm.
like, how does it get if it's worn around your waist? How does it do that?
I don't know, but it's pretty cool.
Okay. Very skeptical of you, Sam. I don't know,
Anyway,
but this sounds good.
My point was that,
Whoop is an extremely science-backed company, though. I have a lot of.
I'm sure
faith
it
in
would
them.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
I'm
anyway,
just playing with you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The point was that I wore Christie's heart rate monitor, and the first few classes that I did, it said that I burnt 350 or 400 calories. I went, oh, that's kind of disappointing, given that I'm absolutely panting. I'm red in the face. There's a puddle of sweat underneath me, and the bloke next door to me that I know wasn't working as hard as I was, but we did exactly the same exercises for the same duration of time. He's burnt 750, 800 calories, and because you can see it on the screen in the class. I wonder how is that the case? Anyway, I got my own strap, changed the gender to male, which I am, and the calorie burn went up to about 900 calories for the class with the same with my inputs doing the same class. So, and then we quickly looked it up, the calorie burn difference between men and women, and yeah, it's apparently much higher in men.
Yeah, and that would partly also be just the higher muscle composition.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
while we're speaking of doing a 9-week workout, I might just co-opt this conversation to talk about an article that I read on science-based medicine today.
Hmm.
Um, I'll see if I can get it up.
Yeah.
Samuel, behave, please.
Sorry.
By the way, while you're getting that up,
Yeah.
I'm just finishing the last of my bean enchilada.
Draconis is heading off. Thanks very much.
Thanks for the follow.
Thanks, Draconis.
We'll see you next time.
Glad to
Yeah.
hang out.
All right, let's get this up. Nope. What is it doing? Well, this is... You're just looking at a blank screen right now, so that's very fun for you, isn't it?
Yeah, this is pretty exciting.
Look, we're still getting used to this.
Also, keep in mind that we
Format.
can't see your camera in.
Oh, and that's okay. You don't need to see it, but
Okay. I'll watch it on Twitch anyway.
oh god, what am I doing? Anyway, I will just go back to. I'll go back to the normal mode, but you don't really need to see it. Basically, it's called dry scooping, a harmful internet fad. Has anyone heard of dry scooping?
Oh,
Is that when
are
people
we
eat a
talking
dry
about
scoop of Tide
pre-workout?
detergent?
Creatine.
Pre-workout.
Oh,
Pre-workout. You just dry scoop it straight into your mouth, which
I
is,
have
I'm
dry
sure,
scooped-
is fine. Have you?
I've dry scooped creatine before.
Oh my god! Is that when you started having all your heart issues?
No, that was when I was overdoing it. That wasn't heart issues.
Yeah, creatine
just,
shouldn't do that.
Nah. It was when I was having it. It was palpitations and panic attacks and stuff. Bit of anxiety, and that was actually caused from
Pre-workout?
Pre-workout.
Yeah.
Caffeine. I was having coffees throughout the day at work, and then I'd get home and have a pre-workout that contained about 450 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah. Plus taurine, plus guanine.
Yeah.
So is it
So
basically Stephen Novella in this article basically raises the question that pre-workout may not be. The phrase he uses is scientifically dubious. The very idea of a pre-workout creatine supplement.
sure. Yeah, I think we've had this conversation before, Sam, about how
That's interesting. Yeah.
About
Creatine in
caffeine
particular, or
No,
pre-workouts?
He says the idea of using creatine supplements as a pre-workout itself is dubious. So
Yeah, for
for
sure.
sure.
yeah. So I don't know what's pre-workout that doesn't include.
Usually, pre-workout, the number that people look for in pre-workout is the composition of or the amount of caffeine in the pre-workout. So like a mild pre-workout, for example, might have 120 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. Something that's a bit heavier might have 250 to 300, and like the heaviest ones that you can get are up around, well, probably not the heaviest. The one that I had that sent me loopy was about 450 to 500 milligrams of caffeine, which is about the same as 3 barista-made coffees.
Yeah. So a shot of
in a
coffee
row.
has about 80 milligrams.
Right.
Oh, right. So it's like, it's much more than that.
Yeah, so I get this is addressed here. So, creatine powders contain more than just creatine. They also contain vitamins, which are likely worthless in most cases if the overall diet is adequate, which we've talked about before, about dietary supplements and how pointless they are.
But
unless
good
you're
creatine
deficient.
Powder, a good creatine powder should just contain.
Yeah, if you buy
creatine
100%
monohydrate.
creatine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And creatine and pre-workout are, don't get me wrong, I think every pre-workout has creatine in it. But creatine as a supplement is quite different to
It has
pre-workout.
scientific backing.
Yeah, it does.
But you
for building
should
lean
take
muscle.
them at different times. I think so pre-workout specifically, from my experience, people take pre-workout because they think that it will give them this like super strength, and they'll get to the gym and they'll be so much stronger than they would be if they didn't have it. And they'll have it probably as they're walking into the gym or in a shaker or something, or maybe 15 minutes before they get there, just as they're leaving home or something like that. What you hear people say when you're in a gym is, "Oh, this pre-workout's kicking in. I can feel it. My skin is tingling." which makes people think that the pre-workout's doing something. And what that actually is, it's not the caffeine or any of the active. What that is beta alanine, and you can actually buy just pure beta alanine powder, and I've
Yeah,
done
I
that
have it.
before as well. Well, you have it. If you have enough of it, it makes your skin feel like it's tingling. Your arms, your face feel it's tingling, and so they put that in. I think they put that into pre-workout
To
so
make
that
you
people
feel like
have
it's doing something.
yeah, so people have some kind of like measure, I guess, where they go, oh, my skin's tingling, the pre-workout must be kicking in. So the beta alanine has about a 15 to 20 minute from time of consumption to when you feel that. Whereas I think caffeine, Sam, we've had this conversation before about if you were to take caffeine for workout reasons, you should actually be having it much earlier than as you walk into the
Yeah.
gym.
Onset's half an hour, and then peak effect is about 2 hours.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
That explains why it takes me so long after a coffee to actually get going then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But people probably associate just that first sip with like, oh yeah,
The
that's
smell
my
of
octane.
coffee.
Ooh,
Yeah.
To be fair though, that does do something for me. I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just the
Yeah.
like the
Endorphin.
warm drink, especially like in winter, just having a warm drink. It doesn't have to be coffee necessarily, but the smell of coffee does definitely do something to me. But
Little dopamine hit for you.
yeah, I guess that's what it is. Yeah.
But
Anyway,
another one though, Levi, interestingly, beta alanine I've looked into, doesn't really have any evidence for building or for improving max power output or anything, but it does have evidence for, I think it's improving anaerobic capacity in muscle. So there was one particular that, as with most supplements, the research was mostly pretty shitty. But there was one study which was actually properly controlled, and they measured a bunch of college athletes over like 12-week period of time, and those that took beta alanine showed better performance in 400 meter and 800 meter runs pretty consistently. But then max power output or sustained like max output was no good. Was sorry, not no good, no different. Yeah, but I agree. I think they put the beta alanine in for the tingling, because because I want to run 400. So I was like, well, I'll try it, and you can get it, not very expensive. But it makes
Yeah,
me real nauseous. I take a half recommended dose of it, and it makes me tingle and real nauseous. So
Oh,
I was like,
really?
Really?
yeah,
Oh, right. Well, that's not great.
no, but I do
the,
take creatine.
the time when I've dry scooped creatine, is when because the creatine powder that I get is just pure 100% creatine monohydrate, and it doesn't have any fillers in it or anything like that. It's just this white powder. Essentially, you just open up the lid and it's just full of white powder. And creatines that I've had in the past are mixable, I suppose, so you can put them in water and they'll have a flavor. Like I used to have this awesome dark cherry one, and in the mix is also branched chain amino acids and all sorts of vitamins and minerals and that kind of thing. So you can mix it with water and it will taste good. Whereas the pure 100% creatine just tastes like chalk. And so if you put it in your drinking water, it's going to turn your drinking water to like a chalky mixture. So I would used to just like put a little bit of water in my mouth, scoop of creatine into the mouth, don't inhale while it's in your mouth, and then fill your mouth with water and then mix it up, swish it up, and then swallow it.
I hate
Okay.
that.
Well, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, that
Basically,
is strongly recommended against.
this article is about how it on TikTok. If you look up the hashtag pre-workout, is there's a lot of people who are just dry scooping, and a lot of them fall into the fallacy that if some is good, then more is better. So just like scoop after scoop after scoop, like it's gonna actually be better if you take more. And I think his point in this article is basically that the most worrying thing is that people are getting their information from TikTok and not from other
that's
sources.
real concerning.
That is very dangerous.
So and it's not just TikTok, it's Facebook and it's Twitch. and it's YouTube. And here, this is a should we be on here? But at least our whatever. Well, not whatever we say, but like most of the things we talk about are evidence based. And where we don't know, we admit that we don't know.
We make a conscious effort to make our conversations evidence based where we can.
And if it's not, please let us know. So these live streams these live streams are going to be recorded as well, and we'll have them available. So yeah, if you want to join us live, that's great. If not, leave a comment or subscribe to us, and we'll address any comments that come up on the next live stream as well. So we want to be a responsible part of Facebook and Twitch and social media in general. We want to fight the ones who are getting all of their facts wrong.
Seems to be sorely lacking, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, there's not a lot of it around, but between us and the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, I don't really have any other good examples of live streamers that are...
Speaking of Skeptic's Guide, Sam, have you, I've seen you've positioned, I'm not sure if that's intentional, the Skeptic's Guide book on your bookshelf.
It actually was sitting there, but it was facing the other way, and I was like, It's the only book you can actually see, so I'll flip it around.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I like your... Can you talk us through your decorations behind you as well, Levi? I've got a nice black background here, which is very interesting. But...
there's all sorts going on in this room. This is my sort of den, I guess. Actually, I can probably just move the... Oh, there we go. Look. So this is my 6-foot aquarium that has... there's the rig. There's the,
god.
There's the gaming
More
PC.
Streamception. I like the unicorn vomit there that's going on. RGB.
So that's my 6-foot aquarium. It's full of American cichlids. You can see a couple.
American cichlids.
There. And then I've got grow lights up there.
Man, that vine is going absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's unreal. So look at this. It grows up.
So I was there in when did you get married? April, May.
April, yeah.
April. So I was there in April, and it stretched about. So if you go back to your tank, and then, so I'll tell you when to stop. About there. I think that's about where it was, just at the corner of your room there. And now it's probably, for those listening to the podcast, it's probably grown about another maybe 2.5 meters.
Yeah, I'd say
in 6 months. So it's been winter.
Yeah, well,
I guess in here it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, because those grow lights come on, they're on a timer.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's all sorts in there. There's philodendrons in there. There's lots of different pothos, devil's ivy. These are peace lily or spathiphyllums.
Yeah.
And they're just grown in the water, so the roots just hang down in the water, and they provide a bit of cover for the fish.
And they would love the fertilizer that's provided by the fish. That's for sure.
Absolutely. It's essentially
by the cichlids.
And then over this side, I've got another aquarium. There's a UV poster that I got from Bali, which is like fully sick. You want to drop some acid? I'm just kidding. I don't do acid. This is a 4-foot aquarium, so it's a bit smaller, full of plants and just various tropical fish, community fish. And then the shelf is just full of trinkets and things that I've collected over my time travels around the world. There's wooden carved boxes and things from Africa, and there's some clogs from Holland.
Of course.
There's a boot.
If you didn't buy clogs from Holland, did you really even go to the Netherlands?
Exactly, yeah. So, anyway, that's probably needs a good tidy up. Needs a jolly good rearrange.
Well, I've got a black screen because behind me is my wardrobe, basically. And we don't have built-in wardrobes in this house, so we've got 2 open, clothes racks, basically, that are just hanging out there. So that's why you can't see behind me.
Right.
Green screen, it's on its way, so it'll be nice and crisp next time.
What you couldn't see is that down here on the desk next to me is a whole lot of scuba gear that I've recently acquired.
Oh yes.
And I'll use that as a segue to a very, very particular and specific bugbear that can probably only affect a very few people in the world. So I'll show you something. These are called SPGs. Well, this part is. This is just a hose that
Can I
connects
guess
to
what
your-
SPG stands for?
Yes.
Um,
And I guess after he gets it wrong.
Do you know?
no, I don't know. No, okay.
Symphangometer.
What did you say, Sam?
Symphangometer.
No, it's
Oh.
not.
It's no, go on. Yeah.
It's called It stands for submersible pressure gauge.
I
is a
probably
pressure
could have
gauge.
guessed that the G was a gauge. That's
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah.
So essentially, so what happens here is that when you're scuba diving, this is your first stage. I wish I'd had these props when I was doing the scuba episode, but
Well, we also didn't record the video from the scuba episode, so
no, we didn't. This is your first stage regulator. So this has a DIN fitting, and that screws into the cylinder, the valve on the top of the cylinder, and then
oh yeah,
on the
like
top
a
of the regulator,
like a for your barbecue. It's the same
yeah,
fitting, isn't
exactly.
it? Yeah.
Yep. No, it's not.
Ah,
It's
I
not.
was hoping I could hook you up to some LPG and
It's got all these different ports on it. On the regulator, you can see
Oh.
those holes. These ones are plugged, but essentially, this is what regulates the pressure from the cylinder to all of the rest of the hoses. There's a high pressure port that your submersible pressure gauge screws into. And then there's a bunch of low pressure ports, one of which supplies the second stage regulator, which is the bit that goes in your mouth.
yeah.
Um,
Actually, if you could just keep that in your mouth for the rest of the show, that'd be great.
So the submersible pressure gauge, the SPG, screws into the first stage regulator,
Uh-huh.
so that when you're diving, you can check the pressure on your gauge to work out how much gas you've got left in your tank.
Yeah.
And they glow in the dark too. The face glows in the dark. So
Like permanently?
same as most glow in the dark stuff.
Oh, but most of it on the dark stuff, it like you put it under the light and then like
Exactly.
and it like 10 minutes later it's dead.
So that's the same as this.
Oh, so what's the point of having it glow in the dark?
Because if it's not, then you won't be able to. So when
Use
you're
it.
cave diving, for example, or night diving, there's no light, and so if you just look at this, you won't see anything. If you shine a light at it, it's made of glass on the front, so it will reflect back in your eyes and blind you. So what you do is you
Shine a
your
light at
torch,
it and
at
then
it,
take it.
Don't
Yeah,
look
okay.
at it.
Yeah.
Take the light away, and then you check.
Right.
Um,
Wouldn't it be better just to have like a little light built into the gauge?
yeah, but then it's an extra power source that can fail.
Yeah, I guess so.
Um,
Or you could do both.
Electronics underwater.
you could, but it's really like it's fine. Just it goes in the
It's
dark.
fine. Stop being nitpicky. Jeez. Leave it alone.
The part that annoys me
None of
Is
those
this-
parts so far.
is its name,
Yeah.
submersible pressure gauge.
Yeah, I'd hope
Is it
so.
not-
Submarine.
Is it not a given that if it's a gauge that's used for scuba diving, that it's going to be submersible? For example, this is not called a submersible regulator.
Yeah, but,
But there's pressure gauges that aren't submersible.
yeah, it's like
Well,
there's
there are,
no
but there are regulators that aren't submersible.
no,
as
but there's
well.
no scuba regulators that aren't submersible. Is that SPG specifically for like? Could you use that for anything else other than scuba?
Yeah, anything that has a pressure rating of pressure of 0 to 300 bar.
But you
Yeah.
couldn't use a regular pressure gauge underwater.
No, you couldn't.
But you could use an SPG as a pressure gauge for something above water. So the fact that it's
Yeah.
So it
submersible
could be
is
a
important.
waterproof pressure gauge.
I guess I'm glad that you don't understand. My point is that there's so many things that are submersible that aren't called. Like I own a GoPro, for example. It's not called a submersible GoPro.
No, but you don't use it exclusively underwater. And you don't use the submersible pressure gauge exclusively underwater either. It's
That's right,
just
so the fact-
it's like a
The fact that
feature
this is
of the.
designed, the
So
fact that this is designed to be used exclusively underwater.
Oh, okay, so it is, but
wait, my question is, what would you call it?
The technical name for it is a monometer.
how
But
how do
how
you
would you
know that it's
differentiate
specific
it?
to scuba gear? Would you call it a scuba manometer?
I would say pressure gauge.
Submersible.
But there's such thing as a pressure gauge that
Manometer.
is not submersible, right?
For sure, but in the context of scuba,
Yeah, but if you're googling,
You don't have to call it an SPG. You can just call it a pressure gauge.
and yeah, you can call that a pressure gauge to your friends who are scuba divers. But if you're googling, you'd have to Google scuba pressure gauge, right? You couldn't. Oh, in this case, you just Google submersible pressure gauge, and it comes up, right?
I guess so. But like, not everything needs to have its own individual. Like the part that you put in your mouth is called a regulator.
Yeah, no, I know that.
There are regulators in almost every industry, and this doesn't have a specific name. It's not. You can call it a scuba regulator, but it doesn't have that name.
Right.
That's not its technical name.
So it really should be called a submersible regulator.
Technically,
We're going in the wrong direction.
everything is a submersible something. It's a submersible air cylinder.
you can submerge anything you'd like.
Yeah, just whether it's functional after you submerge it is really the clincher, isn't it?
Anyway,
Very silly.
I think
Anyway, that is
without
a very-
being scuba boys. We're not going to share your rage.
yeah, that's
But
what
I
said
understand
is
your point.
We
it's
are
very
not super
specific.
super cool underwater boys of Australia. So
Yeah.
You probably have been at some point in your life.
Yeah, I've been
I've
underwater.
definitely been underwater. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Tom's watching us.
Would you say you've been submersed?
Hi,
Who's
Tom.
watching us?
Tom Golubic, friend of the show.
Hi.
No, he commented like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, sorry, Tom. He's gone. Oh well. Bye,
How do
Tom.
you know that?
He commented on the Facebook stream.
Oh, is there a Facebook stream?
Look, we're streaming on all of the platforms. We are not boomers who don't know how to work technology. We are well-informed millennials, my friends.
Exactly.
I'm just checked the Facebook stream. I'm not sure why Sharon Bateman, my mother, has angry reacted to the stream.
Maybe she was
Well,
sharing your rage about the
speaking
naming.
speaking of boomers, that's a very boomer move, Shaz. Sorry.
Angry reaction.
Maybe she's just very
Right.
angry that we're no longer doing an edited podcast, and now she has to listen to this sort of
So
crap
Tommy's
that we're
watching.
talking about.
His first comment was
Hey,
"Heh, naughty," and his
Which
comment
who
now,
knows what that means?
1 minute ago was "Hey guys."
I don't know what he was referring to when he was het naughty. I think that's probably when we're talking about doing dry scoops or whatever, dry scooping. Is that naughty?
that's like a Tom move, but maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe not with pre-workout. Maybe with something more weird.
Oh,
This just turned into a rip on Tom episode.
well, it was disappointing because we were playing games with each other on Friday night, and Tom said something
Oh.
stupid. I can't remember exactly what he
Like
said, but
epic roast.
we roasted him for a good 15 minutes straight, and it was some of the best roasting that you would ever hear. And we did it all, and we're like, "Oh, have we offended Tom? Because he's not saying anything." I'm sorry we're sorry for roasting you, Tom. Did we go too far? And he had disconnected way before we started roasting him, so he had no idea. It was the best roast ever. He had no idea.
Missed the roast.
Yeah.
Missed the troubleshooting Tom roast.
That's what we should be live streaming, is our roast of
Oh.
Tom.
Yeah. So what he said when he said "Heh, naughty,"
Yeah.
it was in reference to your comment, Matt. I'll see if I can get it up.
Yeah. We should have known.
Yeah.
We should have
He's
known
also
it was
said
Tom.
much enjoyed the roast on Lev.
Yeah, no, so did I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Roast on Lev is always fun, so.
Anyway.
Speaking of
We have
roasting
a-
on Lev, how was your dinner?
Oh, so good.
Yeah?
I had to eat it off screen
We didn't
because it
we
was.
didn't hear any orgasmic sounds as you were eating it, so I figured it wasn't as good as you made it out to be. But
It was pretty good. I just didn't want to. Anyway, I'm not going there. Yeah, it was delicious.
Very nice.
Excellent.
It was a vegetarian.
what were you going to say before I rudely interrupted with talk of your food?
Oh no, nothing. I was just wondering if we had a schedule or any like a designated time that we were on, or whether like
Well, we have been streaming for an hour and a half.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we're masters of our own destiny here, so we can stream for as little or as long as we want. But we can.
in the of my my 5:30 wake up tomorrow.
Nice.
Oof.
Yeah.
We gotta go to a gym class. I'm probably gonna call it shortly.
Yeah. No, that's
Fair
fine.
enough.
We'll
Should we finish off with a recommendation?
Yeah, that's a good idea actually.
Ooh. Yep, I can make a recommendation here. For anyone that's watching that isn't one of our friends and is interested in
He's going to recommend scuba diving again.
Diving?
Oh,
No.
here we go.
Yes.
getting yourself one of these.
Oh,
As you know,
do you
we're huge
mean
nerds, and
one of these.
that's right.
or do you mean one of these?
None of
Well,
us
you can't
can
actually
it,
see
hang
mine
on.
because wait, there we go. Yay!
We'll be able to see it on the. Yeah.
Hey,
Um,
okay.
Yeah. So that's what. If you're interested in driving, probably not just driving. If you're interested in video games and race cars, being a real fast boy, get yourself one of these because I've played racing games for like all through my life. Growing up, I played a heap of different racing games, and it was always good fun. And I never ever had a wheel and a pedal set. But I didn't know how much difference it would actually make. But holy heck, it makes a heap of difference. The wheel has, I don't know what controls it, but it has force feedback in it.
Yeah.
So if you're in the
Got
game
belt-driven feedback.
and you're belt drive, is it?
Mm,
Right.
pretty sure.
So yeah. So
Or gear-driven. I can't remember.
I thought
Either way, the really good ones are direct drive ones, like
Yeah,
a turntable, and
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it's unreal. And so as you're going around the corner, the faster that you go, the more as same as in real life, the more force would be placed on the car, and the harder the wheel will try and center itself. So yeah, it's anyway. That's my hugely nerdy recommendation. If you're
yeah. What a
interested
big nerd! Who would ever
Yeah.
buy a racing wheel and do racing games with their friends?
Anyway, Matt, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is buying a racing wheel and going racing with your friend. Oh damn. No, like I said earlier, I've been reading Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan, and I really want to bring a couple of passages to read to you guys next week because I think he really gets to the crux of what it means to be a skeptic, and it's super interesting read. It was written in the mid-90s, and it's still super relevant. And some of the predictions he makes are scarily accurate to
Wow.
the last, 10 years, especially in America. And yeah, it's kind of just it's really worth a read for anyone with a skeptical interest, basically.
Yeah, great.
Cool. Check it out.
What do you got for us, Sam?
Mine is a YouTube channel. Guy called Drew Sims. I think I was telling you about it, Levi. Young guy, he's just a freelance photographer. He doesn't post super often, but he puts up videos of his travels. He's basically a guy. The reason I started watching it is because he lives out of his Jeep, and he looked like he had a cool setup. I wanted to check that out, and then end up watching his travel videos.
2Ms.
Basically, he just puts up videos every few weeks of his travels. They're long form videos. The most recent ones, he hasn't talked in them at all, and it's lots of static shots. It's just stunning scenery, really well shot. He puts some drone shots up. He shows him, camping, cooking, going on massive hikes. It's really
Wow.
cool. Love it.
That is
Ads.
beautiful.
I'm having a look now, but it's telling me I have YouTube Premium on my personal account, but I'm on the I'm on the IdioFacto account, so I'm just
yeah, right.
here. We'll skip through and see if we've got some scenery. So he
I'm
doesn't
watching
talk in
the
these or anything.
Yeah,
watching
no,
the minus 12 degrees Celsius winter camping in
Wow, that
Idaho.
is
yeah,
beautiful. I didn't realize how many ads were on YouTube until
yeah, it's
I
insane, isn't
didn't
it?
have YouTube Premium. That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's getting worse and worse.
but yeah, I just love watching them. They're 20 minutes, 30 minutes,
Yep.
and it's just because I think because it's lots of static shots, it's so
Wow.
calming, and there's no talking.
Yeah,
It's just awesome.
it
I
is.
really love
It's
it.
beautiful cinematography. Oh my God, there's
Yeah,
another ad. How
Wow.
they just keep on popping up. Wow.
I did just see today, so I found him on Instagram just today. It looks like his
Wow.
Jeep got broken into like a couple of weeks ago, and he lost everything.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Lost like all his camera gear, lost all his camera gear, lost all his hard drives, everything.
This is amazing. Some of this scenery is just absolutely incredible.
It's just stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, when
wow.
you look at the production as well,
Yeah,
if he's just by himself, that is a
yeah, he's
hell of a
alone.
lot of setup. Like this
Yeah,
is this shot that I'm showing on the stream right now is across a creek or a
Wow.
river,
Yeah.
and he's just on an island. So he's had to get up really early before the sun rose, basically, gone across the river, set up his camera, and then come back, and now he's filming himself. But
That's gorgeous.
my
Yeah.
God, that is an amazing view.
Very
yeah.
high res camera as well. It is.
Yeah,
Look at
whatever
the
it is,
detail.
Yeah.
it's great.
The
Yeah.
comment I
How's how
made,
still that lake is.
yeah, I was showing
He's
one
got
of
a
them to
hazy
Sarah.
IPA there. Nice. Good
Yeah,
choice.
Haha,
I was
nice.
showing one of the videos to Sarah, and the comment I made was because
Oh
I've watched
my God.
probably 7 or 8 of his videos now, and I just couldn't believe that this is not what America is known for. Like,
Yeah.
it's just absolutely stunning.
I mean, it is
Oh,
in my head. I've been to some of these places, and there are many more that I want to go to.
Mm.
But America is, like you said, known for the stupidity of some of the political decisions
Well,
and
it's
the
known for like New York City, which is just a big dirty
yeah,
city, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
known for celebrities in Hollywood. Like, this is what it should be known for.
yeah,
and even
definitely.
There's
things like the Grand Canyon, which
yeah.
is to me that's super impressive. But this kind of scenery,
Mm.
that's unreal.
Yeah.
It is
That
amazing,
that
isn't it?
that gets sort of forgotten about. All that country up through the Rockies and Oregon, Idaho.
Well,
Like,
this is
yeah.
Washington by the look of it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And lots of other, there's
be
a couple
northern
other people I
Washington
watch
probably.
from America, and they do a lot of travels through like the US and New Mexico, and all the desert scenery around there. Like, it's all just unbelievable, and I can't believe I hadn't seen any of it before.
Yeah, wow,
Yeah.
that is amazing. I
Mm.
yeah, I will be subscribing to him on my personal account where I don't have to watch an ad every 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Yep,
But
I've
yeah,
just
that's my
subscribed.
recommendation for
Cool.
this week.
Thanks for that, Sam.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No worries.
Okay, well, I guess that's it for our first IdioFacto live stream.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, very cool.
Went pretty well. I think we have to do something about the resolution of your guys' videos
Yeah.
because it's really hard to read what you're doing when you're on your screens. But apart from that, I think it went pretty well. Basically, if you want to get in touch with us, we have a Discord server going for the community, and the links are in the description of whatever platform you're watching us on. So in Twitch, down underneath in the About section, in YouTube in the description, Facebook it's in the description as well. Just click on that, join the server. I'll give you a role, and you can chat with us in real time. If you're watching us live, you can just chat or comment or whatever platform you're watching us on now. You should subscribe to get notice of when we're going live. We're planning on doing a fairly regular Sunday stream at about the same time, and then potentially a couple of times during the week when we're just hanging out or playing games or whatever. We're trying out this new format. Let us know if it's a good format or not. Basically, we thought if it works, then fantastic. It's less editing for us, and it's just a good time. If it doesn't work, then at the very, very worst, I get to hang out with two of my best mates for
Yeah.
a couple of hours on a Sunday afternoon. So really, it's a win-win.
Exactly.
And for those listening, if there's anything we can do to make it easier to kind of talk about what we've got on screen, if that's happening at all, just let us know, because obviously that's something for us to be not very aware of at the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You can email us at idiofacto@gmail.com. The Discord server is probably the best way to get in touch with us on a really quick turnaround. So join that. Subscribe to our Twitch and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. And I guess we'll see you next week.
We'll try and be here, every for us Sunday night.
Yeah.
And because this was literally zero prep, I don't think it's going to have the same drag of having to do hours of research. So
Definitely.
it should be able to be a much more regular segment.
Yeah, and I think we will, as we come along.
Oh,
we
thanks
will
for the
have
follow,
ideas
Holly.
for Hey.
Holly's been watching us on Twitch. Yeah.
Thank you.
Holly's a
I think
personal
at some
friend of
point
us.
we will have some prepared segments and that sort of thing, but I think we'll just come up with those as we go along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining me, fellas. It's nice catching
Right.
up.
Thank you.
No worries.
Absolutely. Thanks all. Thanks everyone for hanging out.